I'm going to be starting to talk to you about something which is very significant in any family business, which is innovation. And the reason I say that is important is because time doesn't wait, and change is a constant. And if we get stuck into a rut, eventually the world moves past us and we cease to become significant. And so therefore it's important to understand in a family business when to adapt, when to innovate, when to adjust, and how to move forward. And how having the right people also on board and being able to focus on the right things is also very important, because you can innovate on something that is, or move the company, the business, into something that is absolutely not the right place, not the right time. Might be the right idea, not the right place, not the right time. So understanding this and being able to move forward is very significant and important. But before we talk about this, the one thing that you will hear in a lot of family businesses, and they talk about this one a lot, is tradition. This is our tradition. But tradition is great if it's not used as a double-edged sword. Because tradition is something we need to understand where we come from and where we belong to and what got us to where we are. That's tradition. But if tradition is utilized as a way to stop you from progressing and moving forward, then you have a problem. Any business has a problem, but especially a family business. Now I'll give you an example in terms of how we reached the tradition. It's a small little story. It's a funny little story. There's a little girl. She sees her mother making a Sunday roast, and the mother takes out the roast and cuts the end of the roast, cuts off the end. So the daughter asks, why are you cutting off the end of the roast? She goes, I don't know. Your grandmother used to do that, so I'm following her tradition. All right? So she goes and asks her grandmother, Grandmother, why do you cut off the end of the roast on a Sunday roast? And the grandmother says, I don't know. Your great-grandmother used to do that. That's our family tradition. Go ask your great-grandmother. Luckily, the great-grandmother is there. So she goes and asks the great-grandmother. So great-grandmother, why do you cut the end of the roast for the Sunday roast? So the grandmother says, well, because in our old apartment, the stove was so small, we couldn't put the Sunday roast inside, so we need to cut off the edge to be able to fit it inside the stove. It was practical during the grandmother's time, but it has become a tradition that makes no sense whatsoever for the young girl's time. Imagine if we didn't adapt and didn't adjust. If you were a typewriter maker, and that's all you did. Well, today, nobody uses a typewriter. Well, hardly anyone uses a typewriter. You might find some places, more rural areas that might use a typewriter, but everything is now, to a certain degree, digitized. So if I wanted to still stay in the typewriter market, my market would be smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. If I was manufacturing of VCR, VHS tapes, well, I wouldn't have a market, would I? But if I don't adjust and adapt to it, I will cease to exist. But these are concepts that within a family business, we need to be able to adapt. Now, be able to adapt, you need to have the right people who are willing to adapt. If somebody is not willing to adapt, in a business, let's say the CEO, the chairman and the CEO are staunch in a certain direction, don't want to, and causing a deterioration of the value of the business. Well, the shareholders will go in revolt and say, here's the door, Mr. Chairman, here's the door, Mr. Board, here's the door, Mr. CEO, and we bring in somebody new. But a family business, how do you do that? So it's imperative that the person who's running the business or who is leading the business understands that time doesn't wait for me. And what was working yesterday might not work today because either my competitors have learned what I'm doing, or somebody has come in from outside and has been able to take over my business or no idea. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, If you had a car agency in the GCC, in the MENA region, the chances of somebody coming in and competing with you would have to be a different car manufacturer. Today, and I can see it in the foreseeable future, the car manufacturers might not even need a dealership anymore. You can do it directly, i.e. go to the website, build a car, and they ship it, deliver it to you. If I'm a car dealership, I'd be panicked out of my mind because I need to take a lot of inventory, and it's not cheap inventory. And I need to store this inventory. I need to take care of it. I need to detail it. But if tomorrow I'm competing against the manufacturer who's just delivering it directly to the end user, I have a problem. So being able to adapt and adjust to that is important. As a company, my family business, we experienced this in the travel business. Previously in the travel business, when you had to buy a ticket, it was a physical ticket, and you got a commission. And if you were what was known as a general sales agent, you got an overriding commission for all the agents in the region who were selling that ticket. It was 2%, 2 to 3% was the agency percentage, and the overriding was sorry, it's the other way around. Your percentage was 7%, and the overriding was 2%, 2 to 3%. And then the internet kicked in. But even before that, you could see computerization and management became, computerization of the management became more and more important. So we shifted to move towards a management fee and a transactional fee versus getting a commission, because I don't know when that changed, and it changed. So you either adapt and fix yourself to a situation, or you die. Currently, e-commerce is the main big thing right at the present time. We had a company who was a main player in the e-commerce, which was souk.com. Not necessarily well run. It was actually quite badly run. But it was the first mover. And then another company came in, noon.com, and Noon said, I have a treasure chest of $1 billion. And that should be more than sufficient to cover the whole GCC. And it was. Until Amazon came in and bought out souk.com, got rid of all the management, and built a fantastic copy of themselves here. So it's Amazon.ae. Now, souk.com ceased to exist. Amazon.ae is now the main player, and Noon is competing with it. Now, and Noon has a treasure chest of $1 billion. Can you imagine what it would be like for the average retail company here trying to compete against them? How do I compete against them? Everything I'm buying to stock and then put in a physical shop can be delivered to you directly from a warehouse. So I cut out a huge chunk of the profit of the person who's selling in the retail. If families in their businesses don't adjust in this aspect, they die. Now, some have managed to have a hybrid. That's great. But they've adapted to it. They've adjusted to it. They've started to understand how to best work this business. And that's the whole key point of adjustment and adapting and being innovative in a family business. Now let's look forward. Right now, the buzzwords are IoT, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, cybersecurity. These are the buzzwords. But not everyone's going to be successful at it, or being able to do it, or being able to actually implement it within their business. But they are going to be the main drivers that's going to move things in this part of the world, as is the rest of the world. It's the same thing. So now I need to adapt to it. The question is, from a business, am I going to adapt to it in terms of operations, as in, am I going to bring it in? Will I have a cybersecurity, what you call it, level to my computer? Will I be able to plug in IoTs to be able to fix things so I can sell things immediately via the internet without having any human interactivity? Will I have artificial intelligence to be able to answer and perceive requests by my customers based on the data that it has? All of these things, I need to have that within my organization. But as a business, that's one aspect is as business, but as a family, do I invest in these things? Not just in my business, but do I invest in it? Because at the end of the day, I know I need to continuously grow my war chest, because this is the war chest that will be used for both operations and to pay off families. So innovation in that aspect, which is by the way, it's a big call. It's not an easy thing to do. Which one to decide on, which one to go for, to what degree, what percentage. Case in point, I know of a family business here in the region who put in $300 million in an unknown, untested technology at the time that at the height in 2021, I think, 2021, was worth 3 times the value of their old traditional business. Somebody took a bet, a big bet, and it paid off. But you also have a lot of families who will not take any bets. They will not innovate because they're happy with where they are. Geography has an effect, meaning if I'm sitting in a faraway country where no technology passes through, no innovation passes through, no people come and challenge me in my business, I'm less likely to adapt and change because I figure the world's not changing. But if I'm in a dynamic city or dynamic geography where everything's moving constantly all the time, then I'm quick to realize I either swim or I sink. So in this region, and again, no disrespect to any place I'm talking about, because everyone has his own role and place. But if I'm in a place like Sana'a, who's going through turmoil, I'm not thinking along the lines of artificial intelligence or IoT or data. I'm thinking more along the lines of everyday, day-to-day survival or prosperity in the normal, what you call stuff. That's what I'm thinking of. And you're not going to get too many people coming across into Sana'a as tourists, as visitors, as business people coming up with new ideas. But if I'm in a city like Dubai, where I have people from over 200 countries, either residents or passing through, and each one comes with a new idea, whether it's food, whether it's logistics, whether it's clothes, whether it's IT, it doesn't really matter. They come up with new ideas and new thoughts, and they're popping up like mushroom. I can't rely on my old business to say, oh, well, that's going to keep me, what you call functioning. I need to say, okay, these are what they're coming up with. I need to be able to be either ready to compete with them or to find something that actually I can utilize from them and work with them. But innovation and adaptation is very important. You have the other hurdle within a family business, and the other hurdle is age. It's a sad thing, but it is age. And I should say age with an asterisk, because the asterisk says age might not matter if the person is enlightened, but it will matter if the person is not enlightened. So you can have a 20-year-old who is just stuck in his way or her way and never changes, no matter how much opportunities are in the future. And you might have an 80-year-old who is thinking dynamically, thinking there's opportunity and let's build. I'm not building this for myself. I'm planting the tree for my children and my grandchildren to reap, not me. They're rare. Most people who hit 60 onwards, and I'm not saying this as a negative thing, because this is a human nature, is thinking more of the past than looking at the future. And people in the 20s are more likely to look at the future than what is currently with them. And for them, the past is just, a nice little bit of history we talk about. It's neither this nor that. It's the ability to say, you know what? Either I have a future and I'm going to build, or I'm in a situation where I need to put the plant or set the stage for the next generation to benefit from. If you have that, then you're constantly innovating. If, on the other hand, you're just thinking about what is, then there's no future. And when you think of it, you become very protective. If I gave you, if you are a child and you had no money, and I told you, I'll give you X, whatever the currency is. Let's be what you call, because hopefully it's an international audience. Let's go with the dollar. I gave you $1, and I told you, go hit the dog. Okay, might be pissing off people in PETA, right? I'm trying to think of something what you call it, be aggressively. Go jump over the fire. You have nothing. You've been given a sum of money which you find, nice, and you're told to do something dangerous. Yeah, I'll take the bet. I'll take the risk. I'll do it. You have in your pocket now $2. And I tell you, here's another $1, so that's 33%. Do the same thing again. You think about it. Are those 33% worth the risk of being burnt? And you might say yes, and you might say no. Or you might even negotiate with me by saying, give me a bit more and I'll do it. All right. You have $10 and I'll give you $1 more. And I tell you to do the same thing. And you start realizing it's 10%, which is not so great, and the risk of being burnt is higher, much more significant. If I'm a risk taker, maybe I'll do it, because 10% is not bad. But most people will say, I don't think so. Now you have $100, and I give you $1 and tell you to do the same thing. And the answer is, get lost. 1% is not worth the risk. I don't care what. Because you have something to lose. And as happens with age, when you're young, you usually have nothing. When you grow older, you start to have accumulated a lot of things in your life. Collectibles, monies, business, whatever. And so you have something to lose. So the chances of you taking the risk become slim to none because you're perceiving the reward slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And to the point, in some cases, there's no reward because I'm not going to see it. No matter what I do, if I plant an olive tree, I'm never going to see the reward. So why should I plant it? Because it becomes an issue of being selfish. So to be adaptive, you have to think of the future, you have to think of the people you're interacting with, and you have to think of how you're going to help lead this business, which eventually will help lead the family to a good place. It's not an easy task. People don't think along the lines of others. We have to bring ourselves to think along the lines of considering others. We always look at things from our perspective. We will look in the mirror. We don't see others. We see ourselves. So what benefits us? What doesn't benefit us? It's very rare to have a person who actually cares about the other party over him or herself. But they do exist, but rare. So when people think about adapting or innovating, they have to get over themselves and start thinking about others with them, be it their family, be it their business, be it the society, be it the community, whatever the case may be. But they have to start thinking about it because, and this is me telling you something that I truly and honestly believe it from the bottom of my heart. I don't have a business here just to feed me. I have a business here that feeds my employees. And those employees feed their family. So for me, anything that goes wrong is not just an effect on me, it's an effect on all of those people. However the number is, it doesn't really matter, but it has an effect on all those people. So I need to plan ahead to make sure that I give them, as I give myself, an opportunity in the future. And that only happens by paying attention to what's happening around us and being ready to adapt at the very least and to innovate at the best. Adaption, to adapt to something or to innovate, does not necessarily mean to be disruptive. There's a misconception people have. They think it's disruptive. No. It can be small, incremental, but it faces the issues that are being faced by the family and the company. Families who do that and understand that concept will succeed. They might not grow into fantastic empires, but they'll survive and prosper. And I wish that, not only for myself, but I wish that for you.